Today I want to take you through a 90-word question. The 90-word question appears on both the foundation tier and it also appears on the higher tier. And what I would like to do today is take you through how to go through it step by step. Notice it's 1.1 and 1.2 or 4.1, 4.2, which implies that you get to choose which one you want to do. Now, when choosing the question, always consider first things first. 1, do you understand what the bullet points mean? And 2, would you have things to write about each bullet point? That is the important thing. The 90 words question will always look the same. You'll always have 4 bullet points. This time you'll have longer phrases. In the bullet points, you will always have one that elicits the past time frame. You will also always have a bullet point that elicits the future time frame. One bullet point will always ask for your opinion on something. Now, what's important about this is that all the questions will be structured in this way in order to give you the chance to access full marks. AQA don't try and trip you up. So the first thing I would do is I would look at the points in front of me, and once I've chosen the question, annotate. So I'm looking at this one. ¿Qué hiciste? That straight away is the past time frame. ¿Qué diferencias hay entre la vida? That to me is a comparative. It's in the present tense, so I'm just going to leave that one. ¿Dónde vas a pasar? Here I've got the near future tense, so I'm going to annotate this with future time frame. And the last one, ¿por qué son importantes las vacaciones? I'm looking at my opinion. The next thing I would do is I would quickly make a note of your endings. Now, the key tenses I would say for you to know for this one would be the preterite tense and would be the future and the present tense. So I'm going to quickly jot down my endings so I can refer back to them as I go. A little tip for the preterite tense. If you struggle to remember the order in which the endings come for the preterite tense, look at the word preterite itself. You've got your first vowel there, which is an E, and you've got the other vowel, which is an I. Those are both the I forms for ER verbs and ER and IR verbs, so that should point you in the right direction. And there you go. So right now, I've got those in front of me. I can refer back to those at any point I want in order to check my endings and make sure I don't have any lapses in communication. Next thing I would do is I would look for some variety in vocabulary. Now, on the second band of marks, which is all about your knowledge and use of language, you need to use the past time frame. You've also got to use the future time frame as well as the present time frame. Notice time frame, not tense, so it doesn't specify that you have to use the preterite tense or the imperfect tense or the perfect tense. You just have to refer to the past. The same with the future tense. You can use the conditional, the future tense, the simple future tense, the near future tense. But what's important is that you refer to the future time frame, something that's going to happen in the future. And you've got to use opinions. Now, in the blurb in the AQA mark scheme, it says opinions. They don't have to be justified. However, justifications are an easy way in which you can add to your word count. So to get full marks, you have to refer to the past time frame, the future time frame, the present time frame, 2 opinions, and you've got to meet 90 words. And most importantly, those 90 words have to be relevant. So what I would do now is I would look at the actual questions I've been given and translate them into English. So, ¿qué hiciste en España? What? Perfect. So I've translated my points. So I've written down my endings, I've identified the time frames of each point, and I've also translated the questions into English. Now, the next thing, what sometimes people do is they write things, and sometimes we don't know if what they're writing is 100% relevant. What's nice is that AQA is saying in the mark scheme, anything that is plausibly relevant to a bullet point, so anything that could possibly be loosely related to it and could possibly happen, they count it, okay? They would count that as being relevant. However, what I would say to you is, don't rely on that. I would look at the bullet point and see how you would turn that bullet point from talking about you into I. So let's work through that together. So the first one, ¿qué hiciste en España? I can't lift the K. I have to ignore that. That is my interrogative. That means what you did in Spain. To get at from talking about you, I would start by looking at my verb. Hiciste, you did. I want to say I did. So I'm going to change that hiciste. I'm looking back to the preterite tense. I'm going to change that to hice. And the logical way it started is en España. Hice. Whatever comes after that hice is an activity that takes hacer. So it could be natación, for instance. So I could say, en España hice natación. That would be completely relevant. Let's look at the second point. ¿Qué diferencias hay entre la vida en España y en Inglaterra? So, I can't lift that K because that's my interrogative. Diferencias hay entre la vida en España. I'm going to start with the differences between life in England and Spain are. Now, what's really important is how you round this off. With this are, in English we need to introduce a new clause. So we're going to have to use a that. Okay, so make sure you put that K there, that. ¿Dónde vas a pasar las vacaciones este verano y por qué? We can't lift the done there because of my interrogative, so I'm going to ignore that. That vas a pasar las vacaciones en este verano. I'm going to change that vas to voy. Okay, I'm going to. And we're going to look at the word order. Naturally, we'd probably start with this somewhere. Este. And the last one, ¿por qué son importantes las vacaciones? Nice and easy. Be careful with little things such as por qué. If you get the spelling of those wrong, the examiner could theoretically mark you down, and probably will, for being ambiguous. The same with accents on your preterite tense. What you get is you get a clash between different tenses. And that's where confusion sets in, and that's what you would class as a breakdown in communication or a lapse in a verb form. Now, the next thing I would do is just have a quick little brain dump using something that's called LOTS. LOTS is something I use with my class that stands for the following: linking words, opinions, timeframes, and structures. I'm just going to jot a couple of nice ones down. Now, I want to put in a few ideas. This is where I need to think about what we did. So I've already said I need to start with. So those are just my quick notes there. So now I've done that, I'm going to start actually penning my essay. Now for this, what I would do is I would strongly recommend that you leave a line between each point that you make in order to form little paragraphs. If you do that, you can refer back to your points and you can check that you've met each one of the four. If you don't meet the four, you're going to drop marks. Now, if you miss one bullet point off, if you don't refer to one, you've actually dropped down 2 bands of marks, which isn't just 2 marks, it's actually 4 marks. So you've got to be very, very careful. So let's start. So the first paragraph. Easy way to expand your ideas is to say who with. Con mis padres. Another easy way to expand it even further is to say how often. Todos los días. To show a little bit of right in my writing, what I'm going to do is, instead of saying hace natación again, I can use a synonym. I can use nadar. Now, I need to put nadar into the preterite tense. Now I'm thinking of the word preterite. I know it's an ER verb, so I'm going to need to put an E with an accent. 27 words. I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave a line. I'm going to start my second point. So now I need to say what the difference is. Another nice little tip is to use intensifiers. I'm going to look up my little list at the top, my little lots list. I'm going to use Border Colorado. España. Now be careful, this bullet point says why. You've got to say why. If you can give another way of expressing that future tense, it's going to give you a nice little, or that future time frame, it's going to give you a nice little bit of variation. So my key takeaways from 90 words are as follows. Firstly, write down your endings. Secondly, look at the bullet points, translate them into English. They'll always be full. Thirdly, identify which time frame each bullet point elicits. Is it the past time frame, the future time frame, or is it the one that elicits the opinion? Remember, you need to give two opinions throughout. You need to refer to the future time frame, the past time frame, and the present time frame, and you have to meet all 4 bullet points in order to give yourself the best chance you can get of getting full marks.